What's up guys, FLOWSHIZZLE here, and this is your Viper main's guide to Breeze. Now Viper is basically the must-play controller agent when it comes to Breeze. If you're playing any other smokes, generally it's kind of a throw. Breeze is one of the maps where when I start going down the ranks, the people who don't understand it starts increasing rapidly. Granted, it's kind of a weird map in comparison to the other maps, and the way to play defense and offense is generally pretty different from every other map. So in essence, I've compiled everything that I think and do during the map to not only teach you stuff like setups, but also teach you the mindset that you have while playing Breeze. Anyway, that's enough from me. Now on to the video. Okay, so let's start off with defending B site. We're gonna start by explaining pistol round just really quick. My normal pistol round buy is light shields, get the poison orb, get one snake bite, and basically you're gonna play this wall here or back site, ready to molly at a moment's notice, and then pop the orb at the same time. You're gonna try shooting them as they're running out, but obviously once they swing past here, you really want to fight from here to allow your teammates to kind of support you from back site. The longer you stay alive, the faster and more time your teammates have to rotate to site to help you, so that is a big thing that you want to consider. As for what you want to do with the wall, well, a lot of times I'll just keep it for A. So this is a kind of gamble. Sometimes I'll play around this area so that if I feel that, hey, oh, they're coming B, I can still throw the wall and then I'll leave site. There are a few walls that I'm going to show you, but that is generally how I play. This way, if they don't end up coming B, I don't put it and commit it unless they put enough pressure that I need to be worried about it. All right, so this orb is pretty standard. You just kind of throw it in the center. There's not really a lineup you really need if you really want one. I think I just do something like this, and I stand at this corner here and I look at this line at the bottom of it and I just bounce it off. It doesn't really matter, and honestly that's not even perfect, but it's good enough. Don't really worry too much about this, just throw it. Next, I'm going to give you two options for walls to use. The first one is this one, and I'm actually going to explain you really want to do it from this side, shooting the wall this way, and not from this side, shooting the wall this way. And the reason is because the wall goes up from the position that it starts from first, and then goes to the position it ends at. Here's kind of a little demonstration. You're gonna see that it starts here and then goes here. It's a little bit hard to notice, but it does help, and it doesn't take any extra work to do this. The next wall I'm going to show you is a little bit different. Basically, I stand in this corner. It doesn't really have to be specific, but the idea is that you want to cut the site in half from here to the little cubby, and you're going to shoot it like that. Now, the reason why this is good is it allows you to cross back out toward half wall. So normally the Viper wall that goes up, that standard is like along this line, and it cuts the wall in half. And because if you throw the first wall and the orb, once they get past the orb, they can stop your cross to get back to half wall. And a lot of the times, if you're playing retake, you really want to get back to safety around here so that you don't have to die holding site. With this wall, this gives you a little bit more leeway, and it allows your teammates to scale likewise in the retake. So basically, after you're playing retake, you're off the site, your teammates are here, you're ready to scale up. This wall makes it very easy to get out. You don't really have to worry about much of the space. Only one is maybe back here, and you can get close, drop the wall, and then now you can fight close on site without giving the attackers any advantages of trying to pick you as you're trying to run towards site. This just gives a kind of example of what you'll see from the attacking side. They are able to maneuver, but obviously this allows you to close in the distance and they don't know where you are. Now the question is whether you play up close or back far. If you have a teammate that is somewhere back site with you, then playing close is okay because you can bait, break the drone or whatever it is, allowing your teammate to get the kill. But when you're solo, you really want to think about getting droned out, getting skydogged out, and that's going to be really bad if you're caught here because usually they're watching the cross back this side. So in the case that you're getting sova droned out and you're tagged, you're kind of stuck because you're getting pinged from this area to this area, and obviously they know that you're not swinging, so they can just run out for free. But when you're back here, if you get pinged, you can at least hide until the ping wears out, and then you actually have a fighting chance. You will probably find that you can defend the A site, or sometimes your teammates on A will ask you to defend it because it's pretty hard to hold A sometimes. And when you're getting steamrolled, sometimes switching Viper from the B side to the A side is actually the winning play. What you do is you come up against the barrier here before the round starts, and you're just gonna aim your wall so that it cuts off cave. Something like this is pretty good and has a few benefits. So basically this is gonna make it really awkward as the attacker coming up through shop to need to run through multiple layers of wall. Now this doesn't really matter that much, but it does make it a little bit more awkward for the attacking team. The next is you might have noticed that there's a little gap that you can hide here. This is actually pretty solid. People don't really expect it, as when they run through, they just assume that it's clear and they'll just run past. If the enemy is pretty decent though, they probably will check it. So if you really want to double down on this, you can, and that's by throwing an orb here. When you pop both of them, you're going to want to time it with the Sova drone. The Sovas will tend to not check this anymore because they believe that with this, it just feels like this is less risque. That's what I found in practice. You can give it a shot on your own, but otherwise the standard one is just to probably throw your smoke here. This way, if they do end up pushing you off, you can always put up your orb, and now they have a second thing that they need to run through. You can always molly it, and this allows you to play back here a lot more safely, knowing that you have this orb to cover it, making it much more annoying for attackers to really want to swing through. You can just sit back here, hopping your orb up and down as you need it, and you can even cross back and forth as you need. Playing the A site is pretty similar. You also probably want to drop a molly as they're trying to exec. It's really nice when you do that, because what happens is if, like, let's say a Sova drones and you throw a molly down, the Sova drone might clear sight, but while that molly's up, no one on the enemy team is able to capitalize off of it, so therefore that drone essentially did nothing. Committing one molly to that is usually worth it, and then obviously if you pair it with a wall, it becomes very, very deadly if they decide to run through your molly and your wall into someone just holding the smoke. The last orb I want to show you is one for the door. I tend to believe that if you're in a lower elo, not that many people abuse halls, but the higher elo you get, you're going to see more halls push. Either way, you're going to aim for the bottom of this pipe. I'm gonna throw it and it'll just bounce off the side. It doesn't have to be very specific, as anything that you do will probably generate this one way, so that even if this door was open, you can get this one way angle. You can probably get it to be a more aligned, but I find this is a little bit not as helpful as usual, and I generally ask a teammate to play it. But in the case that you are playing in a ranked scenario where your teammates aren't exactly the most cooperative, this is definitely a way to get around it. This is also a wall that you can throw, which is instead of this diagonal one, you throw it down mid, and then you're gonna aim your orb when the barriers drop to throw it deeper. This way you can smoke this one as they're coming out, and then if you ever need to play retake, you can throw up the wall. This one is a little bit better for retake, but the first one is a little bit better for holding the site. I like the orb being here, giving more space for the site anchor or you to really pivot around and get more kills, versus this one, which is playing a little bit more safe. The last wall you want to throw is maybe to work mid. I'm generally aiming for the bottom right there by the chute. This way it allows your teammates to push down mid, and especially if you have some sort of Sova that's darting like here for you. If you throw up your wall in the beginning and allow a teammate to scale, basically this dart might get a free ping and they can just spam through your wall and get a free kill. That one's a bit more circumstantial. You either want to confirm with your teammates that they're going to use it, otherwise you'd probably rather save it for a retake on A or using it to hold B. Retaking is a big thing on Re, so let's kind of go over it. Retaking B usually just consists of popping your orb as your team is trying to scale out half wall, tunnel, and CT to take the site. Make sure you don't get shot from B main. If you did the initial wall that goes vertically on site, then you pop both of them and you can cross really, really easily with very little danger of getting shot. And if you did the diagonal wall that I showed you, then you probably don't even need the orb and you can just put up the wall. This gives you a little bit more extra time on the wall because you didn't activate both of your smoke devices. So yeah, there's that. Good mollies to throw are the one for back right and then the one for back left. You don't really have to aim super specific, but the idea is that if you can hit any of these corners, this makes it very, very annoying for any of the attackers to have anywhere to swing. And basically imagine if these two are mollied, you kind of just have to wait until the enemy swings, because taking any fight here is very, very uncomfortable. And if you're tagged by it, like you touch it and you get vulnerable, you don't really want to swing because you're pretty much an insta kill. Retaking A is probably the same. With the first initial setup, you probably just throw up your wall, and you really want to try to bank your poison off this wall. It'll land somewhere near the corner that usually they play. Anywhere backside is realistically fine. It allows it to be super easy to swing this backside. You have to be careful of bricks, but with this wall covering A main, the only side they can really be on is here, and then especially if a molly is there. But this is also very bad because if you think about it, your teammates that are going to be scaling up wall are going to get a free kill on whoever's sitting there. Prioritize trying to get your molly out around there, and then maybe your second one you can save for bricks. Once you get onto site, it's a stick or tap decision. You kind of want to pay attention to where the spike is planted. If it's planted like back here, this is much easier to stick. You're probably not going to get shot. Maybe there might be some molly lineups, but in general, this is pretty safe to stick. If it's somewhere here, it's probably worth tapping and just having the wall up, because they're going to feel very, very gambly in the fact that if they just decide to spray it, there's a chance that they don't get the kill, so they're very likely to push the wall. Having the wall up and then just holding for it might just net you free kills, and then especially just going for the tap early and then going straight to hold the wall. Now onto the attacker side, let's talk a little bit about what you do as Viper. The normal wall you're going to want to throw at A is the one that ends up in this corner that cuts the pyramid in half. It doesn't have to be super specific, but if you look at the mini map there, it's going through the top. I use the top of this pyramid, the center of it, to really kind of make a judgment on where I want it, and it'll just cut the side in half. Pretty standard. Now what you want to decide to do with the orb can be either defaulty or you can play for post plant. Something for post plant would just be throwing out on the spike, but if you're trying to default and make them worried about where you're going, basically the one for Hall is pretty solid. This is the one I learned from X100 Thieves boy. Basically you walk into this and then you see this metal panel here. When you get to this metal panel, you're going to jump and throw. And I am aiming to the left of this bar to the center, top center. So if you cut this bar in half, it's the middle of the top half. It doesn't really have to be super specific. I'm just running and throwing, and then eventually you're gonna find that, hey, it's pretty accurate. It'll bounce and allow you to smoke the end of Hall. Now this is gonna make defenders need to be worried. If they have a trip here, this is worth breaking. A lot of times, especially with the door closed, I'll throw the orb, and if we're playing slow, I'll walk up and I'll try to break the trip, and then at that point I can decide to leave, because once I leave, what happens is that defenders that are going A will have to worry about someone being in switch ready to open the door. I even open the door sometimes if I have enough gas, because that way any defenders on site will now need to be worried about a door player, whether I exist there or not. Now how exactly you want to be playing door is that you want this orb to be up and you want to pop the door as your teammates are getting ready to scale. As your teammates are coming up, it's going to be really hard for anyone playing backside, which is very common, to try to kill you. Essentially, your goal is just to not die before your teammates get out, because if you die while your teammates are getting out, that's okay. You distracted the player backside, and then likely your teammates are going to get the trade. But if you die too early before your teammates are even out, then you've died for free. If you at least distract for long enough, then you're fine. And the longer you're here, the more of a pain in the ass you are to the defenders, because even the players that are orange have to be worried about you. No one can be playing rail. No one backside is very risky, so just staying alive here is a very good thing to do. And then after your teammates start getting out and they start fighting, that's when you're really trying to get a pick. You can even decide to leave. Sometimes I will say that dropping a molly here is pretty nice, just to make sure that no one's like pushing you as you're fighting the enemies that are backside. When you run to site, the wall will be up and you're going to plant probably somewhere here or here. But if you plant here, this is a safe one. You want to turn around at the last second. So basically how I'll be planting is I'll be looking this way, plant, and then at the last second I'll flick toward this side, so that the spike sticks out more on this side than on the inside. This makes a little bit of a difference, because while staying minimally hard to hit, like if you're here, you're probably not going to get spammed from rail. Yeah, you can stick the spike farther out. Ideally, this is a better spot than this, because this makes it really easy to play post plant from cave. But because it's too dangerous that even with this wall, a lot of times would just get spammed, people opt to plant here. So if you're planting here, then just make sure you take a little extra effort in the last second to turn around, just that the spike sticks out a little more on this side. After that, you're going to want to decide between playing post plant or fighting for more control. The thing is, you can't just keep the wall up here this whole time, because chances are you're cutting a lot of your own vision off. This gets you onto site, but like look at the defender retaking. Oh, well, if you have this wall up, I'm just gonna go close, wait for this, you know, gas to expire. When it expires, then we're all gonna be behind the wall ready to swing on site. So either you gotta be out of sight by then, or you gotta fight for it early. So once you get this down, you're probably looking to like try to get a kill with your teammates. So if they're fighting for it, you're probably going to want to drop wall, and you're going to try to take a fight toward back here, or anyone close. Use of a flash is good. Sova dart is really great for something back here. Those are generally what you're looking for, but otherwise you're probably going to want to just fall back, because there's not much you can really do. You can probably stay, but at least majority of your teammates need to be like back here or something like that, because too many people being stuck here just makes it really awkward. Before I continue on to this guide, I just want to say you reached the secret halfway point. That's right, you're special, and thank you for watching so far into the video. I would really appreciate it if you like, subscribe, or just comment something down, so that we can kind of create a secret society that no one else will understand. It would mean a lot to me. Now back to the video. Next, let's talk about B. The normal wall is just aim for this wall here, the half wall, and then you just throw it. It'll cut the site in half, make it really easy for you to get onto site. Your teammates can push up into this cubby. A good molly to throw is to aim for this back area. It makes it really hard for anyone to hold the back site. They're either playing close or they're playing really far on the back. And likewise for the orb, you can either commit it to the post plant, or you can do it something a little more defaulty. My default one that I use is that I found is kind of helpful, is basically you're gonna look for this brick right here. It's on the bottom. If you really want to count it, it's technically 3.5. 1, 2, 3.5 right here. I'll look down, and then I'll go to this black center line right here. And after that, I'm looking in between these bricks and I'm jump throwing. It should land mid right there. And then cover for anyone walking on mid. This covers nest, so no one can really see. There are little gaps in it. It's not exactly perfect, but it's usually good enough, especially if you're walking up elbow. It covers it entirely. This one I got from Pure VNS. He's on Knight, so in the case you guys want to check him out, I'll link him in the description. Basically, how you want to use this smoke is either you want to scale up with it through tunnel, or you want to just use it to cause some sort of noise. So making noise elbow and mid with this aura buff feigns a lot of mid pressure, because there's no way defenders can check from mid very easily to know whether you're up or not. And those are the executes. But if you want to look up some lineups, I recommend you checking out someone like Brush. I'm not a very lineup type of person. Personally, I'd rather hold the site with my teammates than feel the need to play for lineups. I'm more here to explain the play style, so let's go into that. On any of the executes, I highly recommend you don't throw the wall right away. What I see too often is their Sova will end up droning here, and then the Viper will be playing backside. Hear this drone coming up, pop her aura, drop a molly, and then you're not going to push through this. Yes, the drone will get through, but besides that, you're probably going to get stalled out, and there's no point. And at that point, because you've committed your wall to B, it becomes very telegraphed that it's probably a B hit. And if you're trying to rotate toward A later, it's going to be super hard because you don't have the wall. Yikes. This is why I hold it until my teammates are close enough to exec. When they've gotten to this area, we've cleared all the close angles. Viper's now dropped their molly. Maybe her gas has run out. That is the perfect time to throw up the wall, like a couple of seconds before they're ready to go out. Gas goes down. She's used her utility. Your jet can dash out, and we're not going to get stalled. We can all flood behind her. And this wall is now committed at the perfect time when you guys are actually able to capitalize off of it, rather than having wishful thinking and hoping that you guys don't get stalled here. A site's also the same. You kind of don't want to, but I do see that A site's a little bit more okay, because A site generally has more players, meaning that if you end up rotating toward B, you'll probably have an easier time. I also think that B is just easier to take without a wall, especially if you made enough A presence. So I think committing a wall to A isn't too bad. But likewise, I'll still wait a little bit. Once my Sova starts droning, that's generally when I throw up my wall, so that my Sova can drone and clear all the close angles without his drone breaking from someone like stairs or orange or back sight. That's kind of the worst case scenario for your Sova, because you want to think about it. The Sova wants to ensure that we can get onto site for free. So basically with a wall that cuts the site in half, okay, we just want to make sure that this triangle is open, and that way we can just run onto site. If someone like here is breaking the drone, well, then there's no way that we know if any of the close angles are clear, and therefore the drone gets wasted. Throwing the wall prevents that from happening. So let's talk about some power positions to play. Close half wall is risky, but I honestly don't think it's meta enough that most people clear it yet. It is getting very close to being there, so be careful, but it becomes very good when you just sit somewhere here. Chances are no one scaling this way will go like this and then clear like that. It's very risky for them. You might get swung from tunnel, but also it's very risky from the person doing that to check, because if you look, B main can just shot from here, here. So there's a chance that there's a large chance that this doesn't get cleared. And if you have any trigger discipline, you can probably line up a few kills. The next one is right here. I'm playing post plant. This also gives you a good angle at catching people from the side of the head, because generally the most hot zones they'll be looking at is right here, back there, and then B main. So they sometimes won't expect someone to be pushed up this far. This is also just kind of annoying to clear. They'll probably have to commit some sort of utility. This one is going to require proper timing, and that's just probably playing elbow. Hopefully you have a chamber that's tripping like A, so you don't need to worry about an A flank, but you're gonna kind of play toward elbow, and you're not trying to stop them in nest. You're trying to catch them when they're actually pushing towards site. So timing is everything here. Basically what you really want to do is, if you can try playing here, but sometimes this is too close that defenders will take the time to actually just clear elbow, make sure nobody's here ready to flank, and then go back to resuming to hit the site. But playing something like this, you're gonna first initially hold for anyone who's gonna try to flank elbow to retake B, and then after you confirm that or killed anyone's there, you're gonna proceed to flank yourselves. So it's called reflanking. Your teammates on the site are probably fighting at this point. The teammates that are coming out of CT, and there's probably players tunnel, and when you time it, you're not timing it for before they're pushing. You're timing it for right before they're about to start retaking, or when they've already started to move. Anytime before that, you might just encounter someone holding for you because they're just getting here. So you want to time it right after. After that, then since you come up tunnel, you're probably going to get just a bunch of free kills here really early, and that's how you probably win the round. Being too late is also really bad, because if you're too late, then the team has already gotten past your sight line, might be behind the pillar, might be back sight, and at this point, like, you might just be useless here because all your teammates back sight have died, and now you're essentially retaking the retake. Timing matters. For A, the common power position is here, but generally you don't really want to just dry swing it on your own. You want some sort of utility or some sort of spot. So the crossfire that is normal is the one from cave to back site. You can wait for your teammates in cave to make contact. Once they've made contact, then you can swing, and that gets you a pretty easy kill. Swinging this is really risky because they can cross out this side and no one can really crossfire with you. So if anything, maybe you can play off of a bricks player. This is also a good crossfire because bricks will hold to this side and then also allow a teammate on site to really swing off of that, as well as be able to spot the close cross so that you can swing off of that as well. You will probably deal with a lot of util here, like the mollies I aforementioned, so be careful. Playing A-main is also very good, but keep in mind if they're playing retake, you better have some sort of mollies that you can drop on the spike or be able to see the spike, because if you plant too deep, obviously there's an issue. So if you just kind of do it the way I've suggested you plant, you should be fine. Now for the power play, like the elbow one I said, the normal one that's closest would be hall, but because the door is usually closed, it's really bad because if you're flanking and your element of surprise is given away by the fact that door open, that's not super great. So if you're gonna do that, you would generally go through mid, or you want this door to be open earlier. So either you did early halls control by smoking the end, breaking any chamber trips there, and then getting ready and holding that while your team goes up. Otherwise, you're gonna kind of need to go through mid, and this is probably gonna require you to be late because you don't want to die to anyone holding from B. So either you try to like stay around here, kill any people rotating from B to A, and then you can go flank doors. Otherwise, you're going to want to catch a timing and wait for them to pass, and then as they pass, you're kind of just making sure there's no stragglers. All right, then we're going to believe they're all on site, and at this point you probably have a good flank on a lot of people. Now this is my last secret trick that I do on the map Breeze, and that is I'll just run early in the round. You got to do this really early, and chances are you probably still won't make it because there's not enough time in the round, but I'll run toward A from spawn, and I'll throw up the wall like this, and then I'll immediately like book it toward B. I'm gonna be late for B, but if I have a chamber trip there, and this is usually a judgment call by how the enemy team is played, and then I'll throw my orb something like this. It doesn't have to be super exact. The idea is that it covers it like normal, but this allows me to help toward A with the caveat that I might be late for B. If you have some sort of teammate here that's like maybe your jet decides to off, this is actually a really good thing to do. You'll throw the wall here, that way if they're coming out, okay, you can put up the wall at A, and you can support while being a B player. So that's really good. Ults for this map are pretty simple. You're gonna like want to go right in for a second, and then you can back out. The idea is to get most of the gas on this side because you want to shut down as much of the push from here. When you stick too far back, yeah, it seems like it does the same thing, but the idea is that if you're playing like on B site, right, and around the edge of the smoke, they would have to take a significant amount of damage just like walking through this part of the Viper ult before they get to you. So by the time they got to you, they're all buttered up and easy one hit kills for you. Get that ult deep, shut down the B hit. For A, get that ult as deep as you can, and then you can play something like this or something in this close corner. You probably have a pretty free kill there and you'll be all set. Careful about drones. Those are always awful because you'll probably get tagged and die. So in terms of attacking ults, I'll sometimes use this as a pseudo wall because sometimes I won't have a wall. This is on rounds where I have the ult, I'll usually be a little more lenient. I might just default the wall A because I'm confident I can get out B with just the ult. What I mean by this is, imagine I have already committed my wall A early in the round, and just to maybe sell a fake a little bit harder, and then I go toward B, and then I'll go here, and instead of peeking out and trying to ult like all the way up here, I'll just ult this amount, and then this way it'll allow my teammates to kind of cross. It is still a little bit risky, but as long as you have a teammate that's like holding for anyone swinging this, you can kind of get away with it. You can have like your jet dash out first, and then you ult behind her, so the jet pulls the aggro and you are less likely to die, and then this way you can kind of cross into sight while still putting pressure on the A site if you have your wall there. Basically rounds with ult, you're more allowed to fake. A site is kind of the same. You can kind of throw it like this, and then this will cover almost everything, not quite everything, but almost, and allow your teammates to get onto site. This isn't the best though, and on A site it's a little bit not as great because your ult doesn't really touch any safe place to plant. Like, yeah, you can plant here, but you're probably gonna get spammed. On B site it gets a little bit more coverage, so I'm more okay with B. But on A site, I would probably hold it or try to get out a little bit further. What I mean by hold it is save it for the plant. So if I'm planting here or back here, sometimes like I'll just hold deeper. This one doesn't really go as deep this side, but it gives me more space toward the outside. Which if you think about it, like this is the amount of space us as attackers have versus the initial amount. And this makes it a lot more awkward for the defenders to really want to retake, because they would have to only scale low along this side, or they have to walk through a ton of Viper ult to get through where the site is. Otherwise, it's just kind of default one where you just ult on the site right here, and then you're gonna have to play around it. But because it's pretty easy to guess where you are, like getting spammed in this, you really only play like back here and like in this little tiny area. There's not really that much space. This requires your teammates to be a little bit better. So good luck. This isn't a bad ult, and you can still like this is, you know, all Viper ults are pretty strong, but this one's like the most standard one. Cheeky things to do on ecos are immediately just walk peek and try to get the one dig, and then you can fall off. This works more often than you think, because usually people aren't very expectant of someone peeking this. Yes, you can die, but it's an eco. You have to take some sort of risk to see if you can get some sort of payout. So I think it's okay on these rounds. And if you happen to see nobody, well then you probably know it's A. You can stack toward the A side. Next thing is throwing this wall, because on eco rounds you don't really want to spend extra money if you don't have to. So I'll not buy this poison cloud, which is what you normally use, and I'll throw this wall right here. And then I'll sometimes commit to buying a shorty, sometimes a sheriff. And basically I'll take this early peek with the sheriff. If I have a shorty, I'm obviously not doing this. And then I'll try to back away. I can throw up this wall. And this is a little bit nicer, because basically what happens is the attackers are going to need to push through this and then push through that to get to you. And you still have this if you really want to hide. If you have the shorty, you just sit here and you wait to hear any early noise, because usually this is a good counter to a B rush. If they're rushing B, basically you put up the wall immediately. They're coming up, all right, and then you just kill anyone who runs through this wall. It's pretty easy. If they're playing slow and getting droned, then it's also like a little bit annoying, but you kind of have to take a risk. You can sometimes swing through this side of the wall and catch someone not off guard. But if you get the kill, you can always fall back to this half of the wall, and now you can reload and do that. Basically, it makes it really hard and annoying for people to chase you. The good thing you can do, and this is a little bit cheesy if you have a few extra credits, is on top of getting the sheriff, what you're gonna do is initially go for this peek where you kind of go for the shots, run out, and hopefully you baited them. And then if you have a sheriff here, a shorty here, you immediately grab it, and then you can hide behind the wall, or just like hide here, and no one's gonna expect it. They're gonna think you have a sheriff. They're just gonna run W key at you, try to get the kill, and you just be crouching here like a little rat with your shorty. Anyways, that's everything I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide and you find it helpful in winning your games on Breeze. I know a lot of you guys hate this map, so maybe you won't anymore. I have a lot of other new content for you coming your way, so don't worry about that. As always, like, comment, subscribe if you liked the video. It would be much appreciated from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.